Yes, yes, I know. Yep, I wanted to save money on gas, so I bought this little car. First time ever owning a Festiva, and boy, what a pain in the ass. I'll tell you. Ooh, hey, I better call you back. I love you too, Kate Upton. Bye-bye. Sorry, just talking to my future ex-wife, Kate Upton there. Sorry about that. Welcome to Krusty Customs Garage. I'm Sean. Today, yeah, I don't know how well you can see my table of awesomeness here, but Ruby, our 88 Festiva, has a slipping clutch. So, this video, which will be filmed over 2 or 3 days, so you'll see some, you know, some awesome wardrobe changes, stuff like that. This is not a step-by-step. I just want to put that out there. So if you're hoping that I tell you what tool goes where, how to do it, I've never done this. So I'm going to be using this, and I recommend that you guys use this too. This is the Festiva shop manual, and it is for this car. It has everything, fuel system. I mean, geez, just everything. Brakes, steering, engine, fuel system, emissions, charging system, window glass and mechanisms, AC, even something about seats. I don't know what you need to know about them, they suck. But yeah, if you can get yourself one of these, do it. So anyway, I want to go over all of this first. First, of course, we're replacing the clutch. So this is an AutoZone clutch, mainly because I needed it and I didn't want to wait around for it. And I got a really nice deal. Right now, if you buy a clutch, if you know somebody at AutoZone, they can hook you up. You can get a clutch and a flywheel and you get a 20% or a $20 discount. So that's what happened with me. I got this clutch, NU31121. And this is the cutest little thing I've ever seen. My hand, I can palm this thing. I've never seen a clutch this small. Pressure plate, same thing, just adorable. So yeah, clutch alignment tools included, throwout bearings, etc. Funny thing, this clutch gives you some instruction on installation. Then you get to the bottom. Obviously not, it's a generic sort of instruction because it says clutch master cylinder, slave cylinder. Yeah, we Festiva drivers, we know better. Nope. So while you're in there, rear main seal, replace that seal. You might not, I don't know if you necessarily need to replace that gasket. I guess there's a plate that this bearing goes into. I'll probably replace it since I have it. That's Felpro Bullshits 40634. BS 40634. Also, since God knows how long this thing's been slipping, car hadn't been driven in quite a few years, 13 years. So the clutch was slipping when I started driving it immediately. So I'd imagine the flywheel, similar issue. So I got an AutoZone flywheel, FW 9726, FW9, excuse me, got the hiccups, 9726. Now, I noticed a couple other things under the car while I was in there, and that is that my ball joints and lower control arm bushings that connect, I think, to the subframe of the car in the center here are pretty worn out. They're probably original. They have about 140,000 miles on them, and they're 30, what? I'm normally great at math, and that's escaping me. You figure it out. It's an 88. I also noticed that the outer boots on my axles are ripped. And I was just going to replace those boots, but that was before I knew the clutch was slipping. So what I did is I followed the advice of someone on the Facebook, the FordFestiva.com Facebook page. And they said, get on Rock Auto, get yourself track motive. Let me just cover up my info. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's track motive axles. FD8069 and FD8070. I also have below that, you can see shipped from another warehouse, are my control arms, which are not here yet. They are not going to be here till tomorrow. They are FedEx. FedEx likes to deliver, you know, around bedtime, so I might not even get them put in tomorrow. So I'm going to get everything done here that I can get done today and tomorrow. That's about the overview. I also have an assortment of tools, breaker bar, 1/2 inch and 3/8 drive ratchets, some extensions, some wrenches. I've got 10, 12, and 14. I've got a bunch of others over there. 3/8 drive sockets, and my trusty 20-year-old Craftsman metric impact sockets. I also have, if needed, my DeWalt Ooga Dooga to get those pain in the ass bolts out and to take the tires off, because I have to do that first. But I just wanted to give you guys this bit of info before we start digging into it. So I'll just be right back, and this will be up in the air. I don't think you really need to see me take tires off, so I'm going to do that. This table will disappear because I have no room to work, and I'll just be right back with you. All right, guys, we're back. I didn't want to bore you with jacking it up and taking the tires off and all that. So you can see there, I got a jack stand under each side. Got your brick wheel chocks. Got the car in gear. Got the e-brake on. I don't have to worry about her flying away on me. I do have the jack under the other side just as a little safety precaution. I think I will move that around to this side because this is primarily where I'm going to be anyway. Definitely need some rotors and some other stuff, but it stops adequately. We did do the master and booster in another episode. So today, let me see here. Let's turn on the dance lights. See, I love my lighting. Got one here, 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 here. Got them everywhere. Got another one up here. But yeah, so basically, this turd needs to come out. Put the clutch in, flywheel in, rear main seal on. Smash her back in there. Maybe put the new axles on before we put it in, because I heard stories about spider gears kind of falling into the transmission if you take the axles out and don't secure them. So I'm just gonna try to leave the axles in, mainly because I don't know if I have enough zip ties to, they say you have to run a zip tie through the transmission where the axles go in. So we'll check into that as we move on. So first things first, car feels pretty stable. I just gave her a little shake. We're gonna take the sway bar off the front. We're gonna put our other jack underneath the engine with a little block of wood on the front to spread out the load. Yes, I said load for you pervs out there like me. And to support the engine, and I'll take you underneath here. There is, I'll show you about what, if you haven't looked underneath one of these Festivas yet. By the way, not sponsored, Icon. Premium creeper. All right, we'll be editing some of that out as I almost crash. All right, so here's the gist from underneath. So this is a sway bar. There's a couple of bolts holding this on, this bushing on each side. There's another two down there. And then over here, you can see, I don't know if you can, just, yeah, the rubber on these is just falling apart. Surprisingly, the ball joints don't look terrible. So I'm going to take this bar out of here. We're also replacing these control arms, which come with ball joints installed, and the rubber bushings, which are failed on this as well. So that lower control arm comes out, this sway bar comes out, and then I believe once I support the engine somewhere over there, we can take that cross member out, which has what looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 or 7 bolts holding them on. Maybe it looks like some 17s and some, maybe a 17 here and on the other side that you can't see. Maybe a couple 14s here for the front engine mount. That bolts right here to the cross member, and then back there got a couple more 17s, and then that cross member should come out. And then we'll move on to popping off these axle nuts. because then this spindle will be nice and loose. So I'm hoping, in theory, in my mind, should be able to swing this whole strut spindle assembly a little bit out and pull that axle out and just kind of let her droop maybe a little bit and unbolt everything else. So yeah, in my mind, that's how I want to do it. Will that work? If you watch these videos, you already know the answer. We'll be right back. I'm going to uninstall all this crap, and I'll bring it right back with me. All right, guys, so I gave that a little bit of love tapping. Hopefully you can see this. Made a big waste of time. If you can't. All right, so just gonna set this sway bar down here. Show you the condition of this. This is horrible. All right, bring you in here. Yeah, so this is the passenger side bushing. There are two bushings. It's a two-piece that go in that lower control arm. I don't know how well you can see that. It's pretty dark, but you can see this bushing is shit. The new control arms have new bushings, so I don't have to worry about it. So I just have to take that bushing off of each side. This one is equally as poop. So yeah, also these bushings on the sway bar, this little bracket, 217s go through here and hold this to the front core support, I guess it would be on the car. And these look pretty worn. They're not cracked, they're just worn. So I'm probably going to try to source some of these today and get them on their way. They're easy enough to change out, I think. They don't look too bad. Hopefully they're split. The new ones are split, so I can just cut these off. I am also going to recondition this sway bar because it looks like total ass. So anyway, next, what we're gonna do is, I think we'll attack this cross member, but first I gotta throw a little piece of wood under the oil pan and get a jack on it. And I'm gonna move my secondary support jack. Keeps me from getting killed if a jack stand falls off. Gonna move that over to the driver's side. So again, we're just gonna pop in and out, and I'll give you explanations of what I've done during the off time. A couple seconds for you. This sway bar was probably between the last little clip and the clip I showed you with these worn out sway bar bushings was only like 2 or 3 minutes, but I know there's going to be much larger gaps, and I will try to be as thorough as I can. And check that out, pretty sweet. Anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna get back on this, and I'm going to shut the camera off again. This time I'm going to support the engine, move my jack, get that transmission cross member out, and then we'll move forward from there and come up with the next plan of attack, and I'll let you know what I've done. So we'll be right back. Thanks, guys. Alright guys, just a little change of plan. I got underneath the car, saw the cross member, and then realized I may want to just start by getting some of this stuff out of the way up top. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to take that starter out, and there's a bracket goes to the back side of it. I'm going to take that off, get that out of the way, disconnect the transmission cable. Excuse me. So lactose intolerant, you get it. So I'm going to disconnect the wiring on the starter, get that starter out, start popping bolts off all around. Like I said, take the transmission cable off, and hopefully we can scooch all of this out of the way. I already took those axle bolts off, like I said, the DeWalt Ooga Dooga, wherever you went, baby. One of my best friends working on cars here. I gotta thank my boy Gumby. That was actually payment for some work I did on his old gas guzzling Jeep a couple of years ago, and that thing has saved my ass. So Gumby is one of my best friends and an all-around awesome motherfucker. So anyway, shout out to Gumby. So yeah, maybe I'll start doing that. Maybe it'll get me more views. I'll be like, hey man, there's a shout out up in there. You may want to watch the video to see where it is. So anyway, shout out to Gumby for the Ugga Dugga DeWalt impact. Anyway, enough babble. Starter's coming out. Cable's coming off. Other shit's coming off. And yeah, that should do it. And we'll be right back, I guess. Yeah, peace. All right, guys, popping back in. Starter's still installed. There's a couple bolts holding it on. But I wanted to show you a couple of things. So, disconnected the cable for the transmission, which I just tucked away here. You just take out these two bolts. They're 12s. These two bolts on the starter are 8s. And you can just pop this bracket right off. I'm going to paint that up, make it look all pretty again. Then you're able to slide, there's a bushing, the cable comes through here, this bushing slides in there, pop that off. That whole thing, once you get the bracket off, that cable will move forward. You can push the transmission arm back slightly, work the cable around it, and it's out of the way. I put my bolts back in where I get them from. Nuts and bolts go right back on. So just need to get these back on there so we know where everything goes. You see these shows where they like take apart whole cars in an hour and then they put it back together, and somehow, you know, you probably have a guy in the back dumping out a bucket of bolts in a dumpster off camera. Not here, not on my show, never. Anyway, I'm gonna see if I can get you up in there on at least one of these bolts. Now, see the back of the starter and its crusty magnificence. To the left of that, that bolt. I don't know if you can see me pointing at it. It's right up in there. Anyway, let me see if I can get you right up inside. Or see that bolt? I know you can. You got to get that off. I don't know what size it is, 14, because I can't see it. You can. I'm going to try this side too. In between the starter solenoid and this little bracket, there's another bolt. You got to take that off. And theoretically, the starter should come out. So we're going to pop the starter off and then see what other bolts we need to take off to get this transmission on its way out of here. So far, you can tell the car's from down south. There's no rust. There's corrosion is limited except on some of these brackets and the starter. I also noticed that I've got all the old green corrosion on the I think that's the starter ground, I believe. So I am going to try to clean that up. If worse comes to worse, I'll get another starter. But this starter seems to be very strong and it works well, so I'm not going to mess with it too much. Anyway, I'm going to get back to it, and when I get the starter out, I'll bring you in and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright, back. Starter's out. It's over here. You can see, got quite a bit of oil and gook, to be expected on a car like this age, I should say. Valve cover's leaking everywhere. I have a new one, just haven't put it on yet. But as you can see, the let me see if I can get some white in there. Oh, maybe not. Top quality production value. All right, so you look in there, there's where the starter was. You can see the flywheel. We'll be replacing that. Lots of oily, nasty. I found some acorns down in here. Speaking of down in here, this nut has two grounds that go to it. Make sure when you put the car back together that you reattach those. Tech tip from Krusty Customs Garage. Also, got a couple sensors here. I'm assuming one of them is for the reverse. Then there's another sensor here. Those just come up under the starter and plug in next to it. There's a harness that comes up, goes over to the engine. I believe that controlled. I have a Weber swap, carburetor swap, so I don't use a lot of that stuff, but there are a lot of sensors and garbage that connect to your stock carb. If you're a stock carb guy, just make sure that you pay attention that you don't jerk any of the plugs or wires out under that manifold, or you'll be pulling your hair out trying to figure out why the car's not running right. Me, I don't have to worry about that. I've got one little section of wire going over there, and I think it's for the alternator. I don't really remember. Anyway, but there's a harness, this big thick harness that runs up here, goes to the fusible links and somewhere else. That has a bolt to the transmission. It's right here. It's just below the bracket that holds the clutch cable on. So that is what looks like a 12. Gonna pop that off and you'll be able to move most of the wiring right out of the way. And again, you don't have to do this, but I make sure that I put all of my nuts and bolts back where I found them. So everything on the transmission that I've taken off, the bolt or nut goes right back on it, including the 2 on the butt end of the starter. So I'm gonna crack on here. I'm really making good progress. I see some other wiring harness. Just follow your wires. There's little brackets that hold wiring harnesses tight to the transmission. Just make sure that you get those off, get all the wiring freed up and out of the way, and you'll be fine. So far, this is pretty standard stuff. And if I come into anything that's crazy along the way, I'll let you guys know. But I think what I'm gonna do now is just try to bust this thing right out of here. And we'll go over what bolts hold this thing on, and I'll show you underneath on the underside too where that cross member is. Like I said, there's 6 or 7 bolts that hold that on. So I'm gonna be at this for a couple hours, probably have this out, fingers crossed. I'll have it out of the car. If I run into any issues or little things you might want to know about, I'll let you know. I am a noob at this, so please comment underneath if you have any other suggestions or ideas. It would be great if we could make this something that people can refer to when their clutch takes a dump. That would be great. I'd be fine with that. I could use the views. I'm trying to build a channel here, so please, I'll throw in a mid-video plead. Like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate it. Be right back. All right, guys, back again. As you can see, the transmission cross member is out. Did support the engine with a block of wood and a jack. So that's taken care of. Yep, just a couple things. Just want to go over what I did. So this is the front part of the cross member. There's a 17 mil here, 17 mil here. This is for the front transmission mount. There's some grass there. 2 14s, hold that in. In the back, same thing. 17, 17, and then there's an angled for the rear transmission mount. Let me swing this around. You can see there, through that hole right here, there's another 14. You just have to go at an angle and pop that rear mount off. So this doesn't look terrible. I think it'll just clean up nice. I may throw a little bit of paint on it. I'm not sure. We'll see how it cleans up. Just gonna move it out of the way. Also, we removed all these bolts to loosen up this wiring harness. And there's one more sensor. When you take the cross member off, you're going to see a wire that goes down underneath the transmission, and it actually comes up to this harness that we've been loosening. And let me see if I can get you in there. This is the plug for it. So we need to get that off. I can't do it one-handed. I'm not Watch JR Go. I don't know if you ever watched his channel. It's like the master of the one-handed car repair holding the camera. Not me. So anyway, I don't even know how this unplugs. I will get this off of here and proceed. I'm making much better time. I just jinxed myself. Oh shit. Well, I was making good time on this job until I mentioned that I was making good time. If you guys watched any of my previous Rambler videos, you'll know that I just jinxed it. Anyway, I should have bit my tongue, but yeah, I was making good time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get that unplugged so that I don't rip it out of the sensor, whatever that sensor's for on the, looks like on the bell housing underneath. Somebody will chime in and let us know, hopefully in the comments. I'm going to get the lower ball joints free. I'm going to take the lower control arms out. I'm going to get all the lower bolts on the transmission off, make my way to the 2 on the top, which I'll show you in the next segment. Also, this is your speedometer cable. Goes down to this, which it finally popped. I took the bolt out. Let me see if I can get you in there. So there's a There's no light in there. Okay. Like I said about theatrical production. So hopefully there's enough light now. So this cable goes into the transmission. And now you can see that little hole behind it there? There's a 10 millimeter that holds this little dealie in place. And there's a gear that goes down inside the transmission. Here she comes. And there she is. Just pull that out, set it to the side. I'm going to put a rag in that hole where the speedometer cable goes, and I'm going to put the 10 millimeter bolt that I took out of it back in it. And like I said, I'm going to pop the ball joints now. Get the lower control arms off. I'll show you those. They're the little cutest little things. And yeah, then, fingers crossed, we may be able to slide this transmission out of here. So I was thinking I wouldn't have it out till like tomorrow, because I haven't done a clutch in a car for 20 years. So, but this car is surprisingly friendly. I just jinxed it again. So it's probably going to start breaking bolts, take 50 hours, and end up in a pull-apart on West 130th Street in Cleveland. Free plug for you, not sponsored. Anyway, be right back. All right, guys, we're back. Transmission is not out. Had a little bit of a trouble time with the control arm on this side. Finally got that out. No big deal. Got the axle poked through there. She's just kind of chilling, waiting to come out. I wanted to show you the control arms here. You can see I'm still amazed at how small these things are. Man, look at that. That's funny. Anyway, this is the driver's side. The sway bar bushing, I don't know where I threw those somewhere. I don't know where they went. The subframe bushing, or where the control arm connects to the subframe, not actually that bad, but the ball joint, as you can see, is totally wasted. Put that over there. Here is one of the bushings, sway bar bushings from the passenger side, and it just pulls apart. Dried out. I think it's original. Has a little writing on it. I don't know if you can see that. Doot. I don't know if that's someone was drunk when they put a DOT label on it, or I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, we were not using those. And this side, the ball joint is totally wasted. I mean, that's, let me just position that. Boot's totally ripped. You can see the guts inside there. All right there, lady, my wife, and gentlemen, everybody else watching this. As you can see, we have one transmission on the ground. It took me way longer than it should have. I brain farted. And if you're watching this, you may already know that maybe in your experiences, these bolts can be frustrating. I completely forgot about the shield between the transmission and the engine, and I frustrated the shit out of myself basically for no reason. Could have had it right out. As you can see, it's still got the driver's side axle in it. I still haven't gotten that out. I tried for a while. Passenger side, with a little bit of persuasion, came out, and that's the one I really needed to get out, because there's a bolt up above it, a 17 mil and a 14 mil bolt that I had a hard time getting to with the axle in there. So that was great. I was able to take the transmission out with the driver's side axle still attached. She's grimy, and that is mainly due to valve cover. The valve cover is very, very leaky. I'm gonna take you in here. Rear main, you know, not bad. I have a new one. I'm gonna slap that in there. Got to get that one out. I'm gonna clean up all this. You probably can't see it very well. Let me get some lightage in here. There we go. So, as you can see, there's a lot of grime and gook. I'm gonna get some cleaner in here, clean this up a little bit. I'm gonna get that rear main in there. And then I'm gonna put my new flywheel on, but before we do that, let's look at something. Two things. Come with me. All right, first, well, all right, yep, she's still barfing. Anyway, needs new gear oil anyway, so that's fine. Gonna clean all that up, gonna get that axle off, put my new axles on. But yeah, have a nice look at this. If you can get a good view of it, you can see where on the flywheel the clutch has been using about the center third, maybe. There's a nice like section there where you can feel, so it's been kind of screwing up for a while. And then we'll come over here. This is all full of brake dust or clutch material. The pressure plate, you can see where it's been heated really hot. A lot of heat marks, a lot of wear. There's the back side. You can see it's all glazed over from slipping. Backside doesn't look like it was slipping that much, but flywheel, yeah. Anywho, all that's getting replaced. Like I said, I got the new flywheel. Going to show you guys that. So yeah, I mean, this could have went better if I would have been, I don't know, coherent about those little 10 mil bolts holding that plate between the engine and the trans. But you know, overall, I mean, so far so good. Everything came apart, with the exception of the driver's side axle. Everything came apart real nice. You can see, if you have never done a clutch before, you can see that this one needs a little cleaning because it has some protectant on it. But those little light marks that you see are just from some material or some sort of something gook they put on them so they don't get rusty. I'll clean all that off. I'll put my rear main in, and then I'm going to put my new clutch and flywheel setup in. I'm pretty excited about that. And then of course I have the throwout bearing that I need to replace. This one seems to be working okay, but of course if you're in here doing this, you'd be a moron to not replace it, especially since it comes with the clutch kit. And you know, if you don't replace that sort of stuff, that it's going to immediately fail and then you're going to take the whole damn thing apart again. I'm not about that. So nope, no thank you. So what I'm going to do is rear main seal, clean that area up, put all this stuff back together. So I'm going to put, today I'm just putting the clutch, flywheel, and everything back together. The transmission is staying out of the car for the rest of the day. I don't have the lower control arms yet. They come tomorrow. I also decided that while I had this apart, it would be a good time for me to get new motor mounts and transmission mounts, and they were very cheap, under $25 for the set at AutoZone. I got a friend of mine who takes care of me there. So those will be here tomorrow too. So she's going to get, in addition to all this new stuff, she's going to have new motor mounts. I do have to get shift bushings and sway bar bushings. They are hammered. The car does shift okay, but it's sloppy. So Will at Samet Industries or thefestivastore.com. Yep, be on the lookout for me, buddy. I'm gonna be hitting you up here. So, all right. Anyway, that about wraps this up. I may do a two-part on this. I'm not sure yet. So this is just kind of my segue to a part two if I decide to do that. But anyway, this wraps up part one, and part two we will reassemble. And we'll take her for her first drive with the new clutch. And remember, I don't know if you guys know this, but at least the old school way of thinking is that when you put in a new clutch, that you don't take it over like 3,000 to 3,500 RPMs for the first few hundred miles. And I think that's going to be true here because this is, let's be honest, an old school car. So that's going to be difficult because my commute is like 7 miles. It's going to take me like 2 months to get 500 miles on this. So I'm going to have to make it a point to drive the shit out of this thing to get the miles on it. But anyway, I'll quit babbling. I'm going to get back to work. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me. Hey, don't forget, please like, share, and subscribe my page. Click the bell if you want to be notified about more content on Ruby and a bunch of other stuff. I do so much other stuff in here. I mean, it's a complete mess, but I do other stuff. We're going to do audio in here. I already have all that. We're going to do some other interior fun things, and I'd like you guys to come along. So hopefully you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. If you have any comments, good or bad, drop them down below, please. And give me a thumbs up if you like. See ya. Thanks for watching.